All right, and here we are back again with the First Team Fantasy Podcast to finish off the recaps for all the games this week. And we will start off with the Falcons heading to Scottsdale to take on the Cardinals. It was a really close game. In fact, won by a last-second field goal by the Cardinals. It was great to see the villain Arthur Smith fall again. Falcons offense was not good in this one.
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke, 8 for 15, 55 yards and a touchdown, 4 rushing attempts for 34 yards, 9.6 points. He only played 69% of the snaps. Desmond Ridder also played 31%, was 4 for 6 for 39 yards, had 3 rushing attempts for 11 yards and a touchdown, giving him 8.7 points. Yeah. Bijan, 22 attempts, 95 yards and a touchdown, caught a pass on 2 targets for 11 yards, 17.6 points. Algier, 9 attempts, 31 yards, 1 catch on 1 target for 7 yards, 4.8 points. It was very good to see Bijan getting the usage that he should, and Algier getting the usage that he should.
Yeah.
Bijan played 75% of the snaps, and Algier played 27%. Cordarrelle also got in for his 31%, got 22 snaps. Didn't really do too much, got like 4 fantasy points, so not really worth discussing. Jonnu Smith had a horrible day, caught 1 pass on 2 targets for 1 yard, 1.1 points. Kyle Pitts outsnapped him in this one finally. Kyle Pitts was out there for 50 snaps. Jonnu was out there for 31. So it's good to see for Kyle Pitts owners, even though Kyle Pitts caught 3 passes on 5 targets for 30 yards, 6 points. Not the best day. Wasn't the best day for Drake London either. Caught 3 passes on 4 targets for 36 yards, 6.6 points. Good to see him playing 77% of the snaps coming off of that injury. Yet again, the only receiver in that room that matters.
Yeah.
Nobody else but Scotty Miller got 1 catch. But so yeah. On to the Cardinals. Kyler Murray was 19 for 32, 249 yards, 1 interception, had 6 rushing attempts for 33 yards, 18.3 points. Had a pretty good day.
Yeah. He's back.
I think he is. I think I missed something. I think he's. Anyways, he got 18.3 points. I think he scored a touchdown on the ground. I might have missed. But James Conner, I mean, I can't say he had a bad day for the purpose of football. I'd say he was 16 for 73, but didn't get any catches out of the backfield, didn't score. They, in fact, brought in Clayton Tune to do a QB sneak from the 1 rather than, unfortunately, hand it to James Conner. So, yeah, I mean, I think better days are to come. They play Houston next week. And Houston has not been good against the run, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. And Keontae Ingram only got 2 rushes. Tony Jones got like a couple. James Conner, first game back, 63% of snaps. So
yeah, Kyler Murray did rush for a touchdown, just to confirm.
Yeah,
he did.
Look, I was like, I'm pretty sure I just forgot to write it down because there's no way you got 18.3 points with the stats that I just read off. There's literally no way. Great day for Trey McBride. Caught 8 passes on 9 targets for 131 yards, 21.1 points. With Kyler back, he's going to be great. Hollywood, though, a concern. Caught 1 pass on 4 targets for 28 yards, 3.8 points. He's out there for 100% of the snaps. So, I mean, I think there's better days to come. You're still throwing him out there.
Yeah.
Rondale Moore, I think I brought up that he was very good with Kyler last year. And Kyler's first game back, got 8 targets, caught 5 of them for 43 yards, 9.3 points. Not too bad. No. Michael Wilson, a guy who I think is going to be pretty good. 89% of the snaps, caught 3 passes on 6 targets for 34 yards, 6.4 points. I mean, I think as Kyler gets used to playing with, Michael Wilson and just like this whole new offense with Jonathan Gannon as the head coach, I think it'll get better. I think a lot of these guys, Rondale Moore, Michael Wilson, worth rostering. Trey McBride needs to if he hasn't been on a roster. I don't know why, but yeah, I need to pick him up. And yeah, that's about it for that one.
Yeah.
Pretty fun game.
Yeah, I mean, and to take it to a very exciting game, which was the Lions at the Chargers. A very exciting game. The Lions squeaked it out 41-38, and it was very high scoring from a lot of our guys you expected huge games from. Jared Goff, 23 of 33, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns without an interception, carried it 3 times for -2 yards, 21.12 fantasy points. Very solid week from Jared Goff. This was David Montgomery returning, and we wondered how that would look with Jahmyr Gibbs. At least as of now, and it can change, as we know, once David Montgomery is fully healthy again. But Jahmyr Gibbs did still get his lion's share of the snaps. He played 58% of snaps compared to Montgomery's 38%. They both ate on the ground like crazy. Jahmyr Gibbs, 14 for 77, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches on 5 targets, 35 yards, 26.2 fantasy points. This is the 3rd week in a row we have seen Jahmyr Gibbs just go absolutely crazy. Now, will that continue as it goes on? I don't know, but Jahmyr Gibbs, in my opinion, is a guy you have to throw in because he is being used. And David Montgomery, I mean, on 38% of snaps, carried it 12 times for 116 yards and a touchdown, 17.6 fantasy points. Very solid week for David Montgomery. Amon-Ra, monster week. 9 targets, caught 8 of them, 156 yards, a touchdown, 2 carries for 9 yards, 30.5 fantasy points. It's Amon-Ra. I mean, we know that is obviously in his realm of possibilities. Yeah. The rest of the receivers, I am not interested in at all. Khalif Raymond, 6.6 fantasy points. Jameson Williams, 3.8. Josh Reynolds, 3.5. It's just not a good look in a game that Jared Goff throws 333 yards. None of these guys are really getting targeted very much.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Sam Laporta had not a bad week, but, for a tight end, just an average week. He had 5 targets, caught 4 of them, 40 yards, 8 fantasy points. He was actually outscored in this one by Brock Wright, who on 2 catches, 23 yards, and a touchdown gave you 10.3 fantasy points. Obviously, we are not interested in Brock Wright, but a random note worth mentioning. On the Chargers side of the ball, Justin Herbert had a very solid week, and I will admit, I was wrong. We'd seen him struggle these past couple weeks. This week, he absolutely got it done. He was 27 of 40, 323 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 carries, 15 yards, 29.42 fantasy points. Have an absolute week, Justin Herbert. I did not expect him to go out there and throw 4 touchdowns. I cannot lie. Austin Eckler, very solid fantasy week. 19 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. 4 catches on 7 targets, 48 yards, 21.5 fantasy points. Obvious start. Keenan Allen, another very obvious start, and he is having just an insane season. Like a ridiculous season. 11 catches on 14 targets, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, 40.5 fantasy points.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Quentin Johnston got in the end zone, so he had a solid fantasy day, but 4 catches, 34 yards on 4 targets, a touchdown, 13.4. He played 88% of snaps. Now, he got the touchdown, and even without it, he was having a solid week. But him only getting 4 targets when Justin Herbert threw the ball 40 times, I'm not sold on him. Especially when Josh Palmer comes back, it's just, we'll have to see. But Quentin Johnston should absolutely be rostered at this point.
Yeah.
He was outscored by Jalen Guyton, who got some increased volume in this one. He played 79% of snaps, saw 6 targets, caught 4 of them, 41 yards, and a touchdown, 14.1 fantasy points. When Justin Herbert throws 4 touchdowns and 323 yards, it's not like the Lions, where only a couple guys. Justin Herbert got this ball around to 3 receivers, to his running back, not really to his tight ends. Gerald Everett played 33% of snaps before leaving with a back injury that he did not return to this game in. He had 2 targets, did not catch one, so he goose-egged. So Donald Parham saw a bit of an increase where he played 44% of snaps, saw 2 targets as well, caught both of them, 18 yards, 3.8 fantasy points. I think there's safer options at the tight end position than Gerald Everett, Donald Parham. Again, when Herbert completes 27 passes, 300 plus yards, and only 4 of those targets went to 2 tight ends where they only caught 2 of them for 18 yards, it's like, dude, come on.
It's not a good look.
Like, they have the touchdown or bust potential, but that is a very dangerous game to play. But a very high-scoring game. The kickers had great games. Just about every guy we would say to start had a great game. I mean, it was just a monster game where 79 points were scored. And that is all I have for that one.
Yeah, that one was huge. My next one was also a pretty fun game, honestly. Came down to the final seconds again, where a field goal was kicked to win the game. The Washington Commanders and the Seahawks. The Seahawks won 29-26. And it was a pretty good fantasy day for various people. Sam Howell being one of them. 29 for 44, 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing attempts for 17 yards and a lost fumble, giving him 24.2 fantasy points. He's been solid.
Yeah.
Sam Howell has been one of the more solid quarterbacks for fantasy football. And it's been kind of interesting to see. Brian Robinson. I mean, I did say he won't burn you because he's going to get volume. Never did I foresee this. He got 8 rushing attempts for 38 yards. Brian Robinson-esque. 6 catches on 6 targets for 119 yards and a touchdown.
Not Brian Robinson-esque at all.
Where did this come from? I don't know. But
yeah,
27.7 points from him. Antonio Gibson still had a good day. And 2, obviously neither of them has the ability to be efficient on the ground, apparently. Antonio Gibson was 4 for 13, but 5 catches on 6 targets for 42 and a touchdown, 16.5 points. Those were outside of the quarterback, those are the 2 leading scorers. Yeah. Logan Thomas, 5 for 5, 40 yards, 9 points. Terry McLaurin, 4. Yeah. Terry, 4 for 8, 33. Not so great. But nothing like Jahan Dotson's 0 for 2. So that one kind of hurt, given the volume that he's been seeing and the fact that in our Dynasty League, I started him over Brian Robinson. Yeah, that sucked. Especially when you see De'Ami Brown catch 2 passes on 2 targets for 41 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
That hurt. Yeah. Curtis Samuel, 2 catches, 6 targets, 6 yards, 2.6.
Yeah.
And that's all for the Manders. Geno Smith, 31-47, 369 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing attempt for 13 yards, 24.1 points. I said this was a week you could start Geno. Commanders' defense is terrible. Geno did well. Ken Walker, 19 for 63. 1 catch on 2 targets for a 64-yard touchdown, giving him 19.7 points. Zach Charbonnet, 6 attempts, 44 yards, extremely efficient. 4 catches on 5 targets for 18 yards, 10.2 points. Pretty good day for Charbonnet, honestly.
Yeah.
Tight ends, I'm just going to skip over because we've talked about just don't pick up or start a Seattle Seahawks tight end.
Yeah.
They are similar to Chargers, Bengals, whatever you want to compare them to. They ain't going to get it done.
No.
So, yeah. DK Metcalf, though, was not having a great game until late in the fourth quarter, where he got most of his work done.
Mm-hmm.
He caught 7 of 12 passes for 98 yards, giving him 16.8 points. But the hero of the day, and for me in guillotine, the one who really saved my life, Tyler Lockett.
Yep.
8 catches on 10 targets, 92 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, it's Tyler Lockett, man. 23.2 points. And JSN, 4 catches on 5 targets, 53, 9.3. Not too bad.
No.
That's all we got for that one.
Well, we'll get into a disgusting last afternoon game, which was the Giants traveling to the Cowboys. Cowboys won this one 49-17. They did cover the 17-point spread, college football-esque spread. You know what? I'll get into it on the Cowboys side. The Giants side of the ball, we've said the only guy we think about starting is Saquon Barkley. He was held in check. I mean, not even necessarily held in check. It's just they didn't run the ball too often because they were down so much so early. He had 13 carries, 66 yards, 3 targets out of the backfield. He caught one of them for -5 yards and finished with 7.1 fantasy points on 61% of snaps. Tommy DeVito, aka Danny DeVito, 14 of 27, 86 yards. 2 touchdowns with an interception. 7 carries, 41 yards, 14.54 fantasy points. Actually not terrible fantasy-wise from him, but terrible. Sterling Shepard caught a touchdown, so he had 7.2. Darius Slayton had 5.1. Wandale Robinson had 2.6. Lawrence Cager had 8 fantasy points because he caught a touchdown. And Daniel Bellinger had 5.4. Again, Barkley is the only guy in this offense that we are considering. Unless Tyrod comes back, then we'll rehash this bridge. But even then, it's very bleak. The Cowboys side of the ball, I was absolutely wrong. Tony Pollard, you cannot run the ball. Without Zeke there, to get those dirty carries, so you can come in and look great, you can't do it without him, Tony Pollard. I don't know what it is. But if you're a Dak fantasy owner, that's great news for you, because Dak has to pass it. Because Tony Pollard cannot run the ball. And that's why I was wrong. Because I thought they would go up so early that they would just run the ball. Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, even Malik Davis getting some carries. That's honestly what I thought was going to happen. It was going to be a rest day. No, they had to pass it because Tony Pollard can't run. Dak was 26 of 35, 404 yards, 4 touchdowns, an interception, 2 carries, 17 yards, another touchdown. 38.86 on playing 77% of the game. He didn't even play the whole game. Didn't need to. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I said it before. What happened?
I was going to say...
I think I lagged out a little bit.
Is Dak elite?
I mean, I said it before, I'll say it again. Until he burns me, my quarterback start of the week is going to be Dak Prescott. I'm not going to change it.
He has been balling.
I have no reason to change it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a hotter quarterback in the league right now, fantasy-wise. Dak has just been going off. That's why I said fantasy-wise. Okay. I caught myself. I caught it. We got Dak and we got Josh Dobbs, who are just going nuclear. I mean, Dak is just going insane. But Before I get to Pollard, I'm going to save him for last because I have more for him. CeeDee Lamb, 14 targets, 11 catches, 151 yards, a touchdown. One rush, 14 more yards, another touchdown. 39.5. Book it. I've seen all those fantasy teams that had CeeDee Lamb and Keenan Allen. They won this week. Without question.
Yes, they did.
Michael Gallup, 2 catches, only 2 targets, 70 yards, a touchdown, 15 fantasy points, played 47% of snaps. Brandon Cooks.
Man.
You said it last episode, though. Like,
You'll
start him next week and he'll get 4 fantasy points and you'll be like, why did I start this guy? He has no I did the math. This game alone, he scored 32.3 fantasy points. This game alone almost outscored the entire rest of the season from him. It was close. It was almost 50% of his fantasy points on the season in one game.
I know.
So can we really trust it? I don't know. I feel like you have to pick him up again, but I don't know. Brandon Cooks was targeted 10 times, caught 9 of them, 173 yards, and a touchdown, 32.3 fantasy points. Best ball owners rejoice. We'll cover it when we get to the waiver. We'll talk about it more. But like we said though, he got this crazy volume. He's another one of those guys, man. You're going to start him next week and he's going to burn you. He's going to burn you. And you're going to wonder why.
The worst part is it's like that volume, the 10 targets. Because it's like Gallup only got 2.
Mm-hmm.
Gallup got 2 catches for 70 and a touchdown. So it's like, okay, I'm more or less not so upset with that one.
Yeah.
But Cooks goes from getting 2 targets to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for the love of God, please, just some consistency. Please. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, could we get some consistency? Or Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
He gives you some.
Yeah.
But it's like, God forbid that I find... No, it just can't happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, to close it out, Jake Ferguson, 7 targets, caught 4 of them, 26 fantasy points, 26 yards, and a touchdown, 12.6 fantasy points. He played 67% of snaps. I think the big letdown in this one was I expected the Cowboys defense to get more than 8 fantasy points. I know when we were doing the preview, I was like, this could be a week that like the Cowboys defense has one of those crazy. The first time they played the Giants, they got 40 fantasy points. I wasn't expecting that, but 8 points doesn't absolutely kill you by any means. But it was just one of those weeks that I thought very well they could get 15 to 20, but that was not the case. They did win the game very easily. So,
yeah,
that's all I had.
All right, on to the Sunday night game.
Mm-hmm.
That was... Ugh. The Jets kicked 4 field goals, so I mean...
Yeah.
Greg Zuerlein was the second highest scorer on the team with 16 points. So we could start there. Wilson, 23 for 39, 263 yards, 1 interception, 4 attempts, 54 yards, 1 fumble loss, 14.9 points. Zach Wilson type day. Breece Hall, we thought he was going to be able to run on the Raiders defense. Apparently that wasn't the case. 13 attempts, 28 yards, caught 3 passes for 47, gave you 10.5, didn't burn you. Dalvin Cook was somehow more efficient than Breece Hall, 4 attempts for 26 yards. Tyler Conklin, a guy that, I mean, we like. We talked about it. 7 targets, caught them all. 70 yards, 14 points solid.
Yeah.
Great for a tight end. Wilson, 9 for 14, 93 yards, 18.3 points. And Allen Lazard, 1 for 5, 17 yards, 2.7 points. Take it away. I don't want to talk about that game anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really any better on the Raiders side of the ball. Aiden
No,
O'Connell.
I'm happy for you that you guys won, but
It was ugly.
yeah.
It was absolutely ugly. 16-12. I mean, Aiden O'Connell was 16-27, 153 yards, a touchdown, a pick, 2 carries, 3 yards, 9.4. The three guys that we really, the three-headed monster on the Raiders fantasy-wise. One's Josh Jacobs. He carried the ball 27 times for 116 yards. He saw 2 targets out the backfield, caught them both for 11 yards, finished with 12.7 fantasy points because he did lose a fumble. Devontae Adams, his targets are back, at least for now. 13 targets, caught 6 of them, 86 yards, 14.6 fantasy points, a solid week. Someone that I am very worried about is Jakobi Meyers. He has been the guy that gets left out with Aiden O'Connell. In Aiden O'Connell's 4 games starting with Jakobi Meyers, he has 2 catches for 33 yards on 4 targets, 1 catch for 19 on a single target, 2 catches for 38 on 5 targets. But in that game, he rushed for a touchdown. And then this past week, again, 2 catches for 21 yards on 2 targets, 4.1. It is bleak. The Raiders' offense, Antonio Pierce wants to run the ball. They run the ball very heavily. They get it out of Aiden O'Connell's hands. They don't make him make decisions like how Jimmy was having to make. Jakobi Meyers was Jimmy's favorite target. Devontae is Aiden O'Connell's favorite target. That's how it should be. But Jakobi Meyers is not getting volume. I'm scared to start him going forward because he's proven week after week that these past couple at least that he can burn you completely to the ground. So we will have to see. I know these buys, week 11, there's some good receivers out, but again, I don't know about Jakobi at this point. And last guy's Michael Mayer, who on 5 targets caught 3 of them for 19 yards, one of those being the most important play of the game-winning touchdown, which gave him 10.9 fantasy points. But again, 3 catches for 19 yards is not ideal. That's all I had. Daniel Carlson had a good day. Both defenses were solid.
Yeah. What fun. On to more fun. Actually, I can't lie. This was a very fun football game. A lot of sloppy nonsense football that some things that happen, like James, you'll talk about that later, but yeah, so the Broncos beat the Bills 24-22, walked into Buffalo and won. I don't think the Bills are very good. They haven't been playing like it.
No.
Russell Wilson, 24 for 29, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 rushing attempts for 30 yards, 18.7 points. Have a day, Russ. Have a day. Javonte Williams, guy we've been talking about that we like. I mean, like I said, there was a league that earlier in the year I traded Jahmyr Gibbs for Javonte because, I mean, I knew for a fact that when Javonte got healthy, he is going to get the volume. Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin are not going to take that from him. No. Both of them combined for 7 attempts for 16 yards. Javonte had 21 for 79, caught 4 passes on 4 targets for 31 and a touchdown. This is Javonte's backfield for sure.
Yep.
I'm very confident in him moving forward for the rest of the year. I mean, I said, do not be afraid of the Bills defense. They're nothing to really worry about, you know? And Javonte went out and showed that. Russ went out and showed that.
Yeah.
Obviously, Perine, I don't think, unless you have Javonte and you need a handcuff, 1 attempt for 8 yards, he catches passes, 3 for 3 for 35. So 7.3 points. But if Javonte's playing, neither him or Jaleel is going to be
relevant
that much involved.
Yeah.
Tight ends, I'm not even going to mention Jerry Jeudy was 3 for 3, 35 yards, 6.5 points. Would have had more, but ended up getting the pass interference at the end of the game, which helped them win. So I don't think that he really cares regardless.
Yeah.
Because it worked out in the long run.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton proving to be week in and week out this team's number one wide receiver. 11 targets, caught 8 of them for 53 yards and a touchdown, lost a fumble, so he got 17.3 points.
Good
No
week.
matter, still a great day. Cortland Sutton scoring touchdowns like every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Well, the Bills had a fairly ugly day, fantasy-wise and football-wise. Josh Allen was 15 of 26, 177 yards, threw 1 touchdown, but 2 interceptions, 4 carries for 13 yards, another touchdown, 16.38 fantasy points. A bad week for Josh Allen standards. It's a bad week. There's no other way to cut it.
No, 100%.
James Cook fumbled on his very first play of the game. Lost a fumble on a reception, but made up for it through the game. He had 12 carries for 109 yards, his big run being another fumble that bounced off the turf right back up to him that he picked up and ran for an additional 20-something yards. May luck be on your side, James Cook. That's just...
That was something that I was just... wow.
Yes.
I haven't seen something like that in a while.
It signified how this week was for football in general.
No, exactly. That ball could not have bounced anywhere else to where he could have gotten it in stride and kept running. Like, it was insane.
Yeah. But yeah, 109 carries on 12 or 109 yards on 12 carries, 2 receptions for 11 yards on 2 targets. He played 46% of the snaps. He lost that fumble. He had 12 fantasy points. He was outsnapped by Latavius Murray, and it very well could have been when you're having ball security issues, they're going to look elsewhere.
Yes.
And Latavius had another very productive week along with James Cook on the ground. 9 carries for 68 yards, a touchdown, 3 targets through the air, caught 2 of them for a single yard, 14.9 fantasy points, played 52% of snaps. They did fire their offensive coordinator after this game.
Immediately after
It is now Joe Brady. We will see what that backfield looks like, if that changes some of the snap share. We will just have to see. But for James Cook's owners, it is bleak. It's looking very rough. But again, we'll have to
Apparently
see.
it was Ken Dorsey's fault that Josh Allen likes to throw it to the defense. But
yeah. Because he drew up the plays for him to throw it to the defense, right? You know?
Yeah, he was like, when the DB... Okay, anyways. So, yeah, we're going to move on to our waiver wire.
Wait, the receivers. We're almost done. The receivers, I know,
sorry.
there's not much to be said.
Yeah.
It was a rough week. Stephon Diggs, 3 catches, 34 yards, 6.4 fantasy points on 5 targets. You're starting him every week, but that is terrible for Stephon Diggs standards. Gabe Davis saw 6 targets, caught 2 of them, 56 yards, along with a 2-point conversion, so he had 9.6 fantasy points. Khalil Shakir did not have a good week. Only targeted twice, caught 1 of them, 24 yards, 3.4 fantasy points. A very big letdown. He did play 76% of the snaps, but only getting targeted twice does not look good. Dalton Kincaid, as steady as they come though. 5 catches, 51 yards, 6 targets, a touchdown, 16.1 fantasy points. Now we can move on to the waiver.
My apologies. Yes, onto the waivers. My quarterback is going to be Russell Wilson this week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been playing well enough. I think they're going up against the Vikings. Not the greatest, test. I think he should have a good day. I mean, aside from that, like, who do you have at quarterback?
I have the Rocket Man, Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, I was going to say the only other one this week would be, and he's over 50% is why I didn't say him, but Geno Smith, yeah. Like, I was going to go him, but the only other two pretty much this week are Russell Wilson and Josh Dobbs that I'd really consider on the waiver wire.
Yeah, because I mean, Josh
Honestly.
Dobbs, yeah, he's over 50, 60% rostered. So you have a 40% chance you're in a league that he is not rostered. And after they play Denver, they play Chicago. And he's currently the QB7. So I do like Josh Dobbs.
And I mean, like, Baker plays San Francisco this week.
It's tough.
Yeah. And like I said, Geno Smith, 68% rostered.
That's surprising that he's more rostered than Josh Dobbs at this point.
To a degree, yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, quarterbacks are not. It's just hopefully you have your guy this week.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's kind of an ugly week for waivers all around.
Mm-hmm.
My running back that I have, who's exactly at 50%, so you very well may be in a league where you can go out and get him. That'll be Keaton Mitchell yet again. He is honestly the best running back in the Ravens running back room.
Mm-hmm.
The things he's able to do on a very minimal amount of touches is insane. 64 yards and a touchdown on 4 total touches.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And he's going up against the Bengals defense this coming week that gave up 150 yards on the ground to Devin Singletary. I think he's due for another decent week. And yeah, not too much unless you feel comfortable with Latavius Murray or something.
Yeah, and this is a 1 week rental, is Ty Chandler. He's only 15% rostered, which I assume is due to some leagues having their waivers go through earlier because he's already plus 11%. So I assume he was 4% rostered before this. So he very well should be available. Again, a 1 week rental because that's if Madison misses, because his only other competition is CJ Ham, and I apologize if I say this wrong, but Kene Nwangwu. That's his only other competition.
Just keep rolling, yeah.
That's it. So, they play Denver.
Myles Gaskin got traded to LA, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 1 week rental. But again, it's thin at the running back room.
It is. Wide receiver, there's a few more options. I mean, I don't know if you have Brandon Cooks.
No.
But he's 49%.
He's a good option, though.
He's a good option. My 2 options that I don't know if I prefer them, but I personally, I don't know. They're like neck and neck, but the Arizona Cardinals receivers, Rondale Moore and Michael Wilson, I think they're both really good options with Kyler being back. Like I said, with Kyler getting acclimated into this Jonathan Gannon system, I think it'll be good. Yeah, there's just not much out there. And I really think these 2 guys actually have a chance for the rest of the season to help you out, help you win weeks when you're down guys. Their bye week isn't until week 14. So in the coming weeks, this week 11, there's, guys like Olave, just off the top of my head. And then like week 13.
Oh, sorry. Just for bye week 11. Like the Patriots, Demario Douglas is on bye, Olave's bye.
Oh, yeah, Douglas. But yeah, and then like week 13, you got a lot of people on bye.
Mm-hmm.
You have like Zay Flowers, Devontae Adams, just so on and so forth. Just these are coming weeks where you might need a receiver to plug in. Yeah. And I believe with Kyler coming back and performing well, especially in that first game, both of these guys serve to, be good spot starts.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Brandon Cooks is a very good pickup. The guy I put, and I looked at this list, and yeah, I like the Cardinals wide receivers because I think they can consistently get the most volume. I put Elijah Moore just to have a wide receiver on this. He's 48% rostered, but he's only had 2 weeks on the season below 5 targets. That's the only reason I really liked putting him on here. He's had 6 weeks with at least 7 targets out of the 9 games they've played. So he does get volume, and like Schiff had mentioned earlier when talking about the Browns, as he gets more acclimated with Deshaun, which is crazy to say going into week 11, but it's true. We'd like to think, they can start figuring things out there. He's the obvious wide receiver too, so. And they play Pittsburgh, whose secondary is buns.
Yeah, but no, I agree with you. I think he's a good option. And then for tight end, I got Luke Musgrave going up against the Chargers.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he's a guy we've talked about before, so I'm not going to give the whole spiel again. But the tight ends are very limited, as we know. So if you need a guy, like Taysom Hill, for example, is not going to be available this week. Kyle Pitts in the lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Luke Musgrave is a good option.
Yeah, he's a good option. Like Logan Thomas is a solid option. I put Trey McBride. He's 64% rostered, so it's kind of like Josh Dobbs at this point. You have like a 4 and 6 shot that he's available. But if he is, that should be like your top of the list tight end, because
100%.
We just saw his first game with Kyler. He got 9 targets, caught 8 of them for 131 yards. He was the tight end 2 behind TJ Hawkinson. I mean,
it's huge.
I'm just curious when Zach Ertz comes back what it looks like. There is no way you delegate a 23-year-old tight end that is going crazy back to the backup tight end. There's just no way. That's the right decision.
No. And he's the future of that tight end room. So But so that'll kind of do it for this week, guys. We will be back tomorrow with the Thursday night preview, as well as our starts and sits of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, we will have our showdowns. Do not worry. We've been very busy, but we're getting back on top of everything. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned for that, guys. Once again, thank you for all the support. Any questions, any comments you might have, if you have any questions about the sleeper picks, like we said, any of our socials you can contact us on. And Derek, anything you might have?
No, I'm good. You say it this time. Sounds better coming from you.
All right, come back next time. Take more reps with the first team.
Yes, sir.